If you have not heard, our best deal is happening right now. Get 50% off new annual memberships. No code needed. DailyWire.com/Black Friday to join now. As the Libs are preparing a rhetorical war with their conservative uncles this Thanksgiving, President Trump is preparing a trade war with Mexico until they stop poisoning our country with criminals and fentanyl. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. As some libs become introspective over why they lost the election, Sharon Stone typifies the elite liberal response, which is to blame the majority of Americans and call them stupid and unworldly. We will get to that in a moment. First, though, President Trump is threatening a 25% tariff on Mexico. That's a bad deal for Mexico, which means I want to tell you about a good deal for you, and that is the Candle Club. Go over right now to the Candle Club. Advent is upon us. You can get my absolute favorite candle that we make. That is the Wise Man candle. It will make your home smell like a 12th century monastery. Absolutely beautiful. Go get the Wise Man candle at thecandleclub.com. Then go check out Birch Gold. Text Knowles to 989898. For those of us holding our breath over the past few months, we can exhale. Work can finally be done on the major issues facing this country, one of the most significant being our national debt. Fact is, the country's broke. That debt is a house of cards that cannot quickly be dismantled. For as long as the economy sits on top of that house of cards, the strategy remains the same. Diversify your savings. There's so many things out there out of our control, out of our president's control. That is why you want a safe haven in your savings. Birch Gold Group will help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Best news is, it does not cost you a penny out of pocket. Only takes the removal of one card for that whole house of cards to fall. Protect your savings with gold. Text Knowles, KNWLAS, to 989898. Get your free info kit. Plus, right now, through Black Friday, you will receive a free 1-ounce silver eagle for every $5,000 purchased. As the exclusive gold partner of the Daily Wire for the past 8 years, you can trust Birch Gold, as I do, to help you protect your savings. Text Knowles to 989898 today. President Trump is threatening a 25% tariff on Mexico. And I'll just read his words here because I think this is really, really good tactics and maybe really, really good policy. Trump writes, as everyone is aware, thousands of people are pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. Right now, a caravan from Mexico is coming, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border. On January 20th is one of my many first executive orders. I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada. What did Canada do? A lot of things. And Canada, a 25% tariff on all products coming into the United States. So this is not a steel tariff. This is not a computer chip tariff. This is on everything. And its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect until such time as drugs, in particular, and all illegal aliens stop this invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to easily solve this long-simmering problem. We hereby demand they use that power, and until such time as they do, it is time for them to pay a very big price. I love this. This is the only language that gangsters understand. This language of, hey, Mexico, you let the cartels control the border, okay, and then the cartels launch an invasion of our country and they poison Americans. Okay, we're going to blame you for that. We're blaming the cartels too, but you are allowing that to happen as the ostensible government of Mexico. You're allowing that to happen. So we're going to punish you and we're going to starve your country until you fix it. We've played nice before. We've tried to be nice. The Mexican government doesn't respond to nice. The Canadian government certainly doesn't respond to nice. They sound kind of nice, with their, ooh, hey, how you doing? What's about that? Eh? They talk all nice, but they're America's evil top hat up there, okay? Justin Trudeau, some have called him the son of Fidel Castro. I'm not sure about that. They have radical leftist policies. They undermine American sovereignty. So can't have it, okay? We have a border with America's evil top hat too, and we got to make sure that they do their part as well. It's not just about Mexico, though the problem is predominantly from Mexico. Trump's going to say, look, guys, you play ball or we're going to bankrupt your economies. You're both just vassals and appendages of the United States. So you play ball or we're going to tank your economies. What do you think about that? President Trump foreshadowed this approach to tariffs all the way back when he was making rumblings about running for president in 2012. And here's how he talked about not only the policy, but the tactic.
And somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I'd drop a 25% tax on China. And I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you mother, we're going to tax you 25%.
He makes a good point here. If you just get the policy wonk in the room from the Brookings Institution, he says, well, actually, we're considering levying a 25% tariff on, but that's not going to make the government of Mexico or China, as Trump is discussing there, shaking their boots. But if you get a guy who has a plausible claim to being a maniac and to being vindictive and to being a loose cannon, go in there and say, we are going to bury you, they might believe it, just as our adversaries around the world believed it under Trump the last time. Now, the other reason this policy matters is, one, it's really important to stop the invasion. However, it's also a telling policy because it means that Trump is willing to cause economic pain in the short run. If President Trump levied a 25% tariff on Mexico or Canada or China, certainly, that would cause massive economic pain in the United States in the short term. There is no question about that. However, it would cause great economic and political benefit in the long term. We are not benefiting from having poison pour across our border, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. We are not benefiting from an invasion of millions of people a year coming in, screwing up our labor market, screwing up our housing market, not assimilating into our culture, causing all sorts of social distress. We're not benefiting from that economically, politically, spiritually, or anything. So the long-term effects of this open border have been completely disastrous on every level. But to fix it, if Trump were really to enact something like a 25% tariff, that would cause economic pain. All of us would pay money for that. However, in the long run, it would benefit us. To say nothing of the fact that as a matter of justice, it is important that a nation have borders and be able to enforce its immigration laws and not be poisoned by foreign criminals. You're seeing a similar policy right now in construction. So Trump's saying, all right, we're going to close up the border. We're going to deport the illegal aliens. Construction moguls are whining to liberal media that this is going to hurt them. Stan Merrick, construction mogul, and an economic consultant, Ray Perryman, were just whining to NPR that Trump's mass deportation program, quote, would devastate the construction industry, saying, quote, we wouldn't finish our highways, we wouldn't finish our schools. It's not remotely practical to round up and deport everyone. We simply don't have an economic structure that can sustain that. There are more undocumented people. They're using all the liberal language, the liberal euphemisms that don't actually describe the problem. The problem with those people is not that they lack, they dropped their driver's license somewhere. They lack working papers from the county clerk. The problem with those people is they are foreign nationals who have no right to be in this country, who broke our laws to get here, and who are causing all sorts of social disorder and stress on our economy while they are here, and who are committing crimes and who are bringing with them a lot of social pathologies. That's the problem. But he says there are more undocumented people working in Texas right now than there are unemployed people in Texas. So there's no way you could fill these jobs. Okay. Reminder. It is not just the politicians who have sold us out on mass migration. It is also big business. And for much of my lifetime, Democrats were the party of government, Republicans were the party of business. We said business is great, business can do no wrong, corporations are people too, my friend. We love big business. It's just that dastardly government that screws everything up. No, this is big business colluding with the corrupt government to screw over everybody else. That's what you're seeing here. Because big business likes the cheap labor. They like creating a class of indentured servants who have been trafficked by criminal cartels from Mexico because it means they can pay lower wages and they can be more productive and bring in more profits. Now, that doesn't mean that their observation is false. When they say that deporting all the illegal aliens would cause huge economic turmoil, they are 100% right. Part of the reason that the politicians have gotten away with the program of mass migration is that Americans are not having kids anymore. Now, Americans are not having kids in part because they no longer have economic stability because of things like mass migration, because the labor market has been so upended, because big government has colluded with big businesses, corrupt government has colluded with big businesses, and so it's very difficult to support a family because of things like feminism, which also messed up the labor market. So it's a self-reinforcing cycle. But they're 100% correct. To deport all of the illegal aliens would cause massive economic devastation in the short term. In the long term, it would be much better for our country. Our country is on the decline by pretty much any measure and has been for decades. The most basic problem, which I just alluded to, is that we don't even have kids anymore. So because we don't have kids, in order to prop up our economy, the cynical politicians say, let's just import foreigners. What could go wrong? So what Trump is looking at here, what Trump is actually doing, is not just shooting from the hip. He's not just pursuing some radical policy that is reckless and irresponsible. Quite the opposite. Trump is the one who is acting responsibly. Trump is the one who is acting in a mature way. We are seeing much more maturity and responsibility from Trump than we've seen from either party in decades. He's saying, I'm willing to take the economic hit right now in order that we can have a better economic outcome in the long term. Now, speaking of important social problems, I want to tell you about preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. The fight for life has never been more crucial than it is right now. While the Libs fight to expand abortion to make it easier to end innocent lives, Preborn Ministries is on the front lines fighting back, fighting for life, fighting for truth, fighting for the most vulnerable among us. It is fascinating how the same people who cry about following the science totally ignore the scientific reality of fetal development. But that is exactly what Preborn's network of clinics reveals through the power of ultrasound technology. When a mother sees her baby's heartbeat, when she witnesses that undeniable proof of life, everything changes. Preborn's clinics are strategically positioned in areas with the highest abortion rates, offering free ultrasounds and welcoming these women with God's love. The results speak for themselves. The majority of mothers choose life when they see their baby. Would you join me in this crucial fight? One ultrasound costs just $28. You give $28 today, you give a 50-50 chance of saving a baby's life. $140 sponsors 5 ultrasounds. That means you could save multiple lives with a single donation. To donate, dial pound 250 on your cell phone, say keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Knowles. All gifts are tax deductible. I personally support this organization. Preborn has a 4-star charity rating. In this fight for life, every ultrasound gives a baby a chance. Preborn.com/Knowles. I mentioned to you that Kamala Harris might run for president again. That's according to a report from Politico yesterday. Well, Kamala has a message, finally, to her supporters. She's been in Hawaii vacationing with her family and her staff. She now has a message to her supporters. And the message is, don't learn anything from the election.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
Fact check. No, you don't. You don't, Kamala supporters. You don't have the same power. Before November 5th, you had a real big foothold into the government. You were looking at potentially a unified government following November 5th, where you could really pack the Supreme Court and the filibuster, give mass amnesty, trans the kids in schools, have abortion nationwide up until the moment of birth or later. You had the potential for all those things. And then on November 5th, the American people told you no and took the whole government away from you. So now the Republicans have unified government. So you, Kamala supporters, don't have anywhere near the power that you had before November 5th and 6th. You're out. You're not as persuasive. you're wrong. You were always wrong, but the American people have told you that you're wrong. This is total denial from Kamala Harris. She's saying, don't learn anything from this election. Don't change. Don't be introspective. Don't wonder why you lost 1 in 5 black men. Don't wonder why you lost half of Hispanics. Don't wonder why you lost 40% of women under 30. The one group that they were supposed to win. Don't wonder that. Don't change at all. And so to Kamala supporters, I say, great, listen to Kamala, believe her, don't change anything. Make sure you nominate her in 2028. Nominate her in 2032 also. Nominate her in 2036. I think that would be great. Kamala has learned nothing. Liberals in Hollywood have learned nothing. Sharon Stone was just complaining to Italians on the film circuit that the reason that Trump won in the elections is that most Americans are idiots.
You know, Italy has seen fascism. Italy has seen these things. You guys, you understand what happens. You have seen this before. My country is in its adolescence. Adolescence is very arrogant. Adolescence thinks it knows everything. Adolescence is naive and ignorant and arrogant. And we are in our ignorant, arrogant adolescence. We haven't seen this before in our country. So Americans who don't travel, who 80% don't have a passport, who are uneducated, are in their extraordinary naivete.
And that's why they elected Trump. We haven't seen this before. Another fact check. He was president from 2017 to 2021. We have very much seen this before. We've seen this exact guy, actually, not that long ago. He was already president, and he was a very good president. He was much better than the president before him or the president after him. Both of them were Democrats. So it would seem that the ignorance and the arrogance might be coming a little bit more from Sharon Stone there, because we saw this before and it was great. Second point, Sharon Stone is suggesting that when we're trying to get an example of good government, we look to Italy. Italy, which has had something like 50 governments since World War II. Italy, which hasn't had a serious, effective ruler since Caesar Augustus. Italy is supposed to be our exemplar for good government. This is a classic case of liberal projection. Everything they say about us applies to them. These conservatives are ignorant and they're arrogant and they're stupid and I hate them and they're unworldly and they're so arrogant. Find me a more shining example of arrogance than Sharon Stone and the leftists in Hollywood. You will not be able to do that. They don't even travel. And when they do travel, they probably don't even fly business class. Those disgusting probably have to sit in premium economy. It's unbelievable. No wonder they voted for Trump. Okay, so the strategy moving forward, the strategy after 2016 was call many Americans idiots and see how that works. The strategy after 24 is going to be call most Americans idiots. And unworldly, not sufficiently cosmopolitan, arrogant to say that about 1 in 5 black guys, half of Hispanics, and almost half, not quite almost half of women, but 40% of women under 30, and the majority of married women. Okay, Cotton, interesting strategy. Let's see how that plays out. Now, in fairness, there have been some libs who have become introspective. New York Times is killing it this week. Maybe it's look. I don't want to draw a direct line here, but I did suggest that the Trump administration kicked the New York Times out of the White House press room, and we got some headlines for that. And I spoke with Don Jr. on his podcast, which was also making the rounds about reordering the press room. So I don't know. Maybe the New York Times just got the message. They're playing it cool for the next few weeks. They want to keep their seat in the press room. I don't know. I'm not making any claims. It's just curious timing. However, the New York Times is being introspective. They had that magnificent piece on IVF yesterday, which I strongly encourage everyone to read. But then today, transgender activists question the movement's confrontational approach. Facing diminishing public support, some activists say all or nothing tactics are not working. We have to make it okay for someone to change their minds. Okay. And this is by a writer for the New York Times who has covered the LGBT beat for over a decade. Some transgender activists question the movement's confrontational approach. I don't believe you. Find me the transgender activist who is advocating less confrontation. I have met a lot of transgender activists over the years. I have been protested by some of them. Some of them have burned me in effigy and thrown explosives at buildings when I'm about to walk on stage to give a speech. I've never noticed any of them diminish the aggression. Okay, I've only seen the aggression get more and more intense. But they realize that, and the New York Times here and I are in total agreement. The transgender ideology was a major issue in this campaign. It wasn't always bubbling to the surface. It didn't show up in the opinion polls, but I promise you, it was a major issue in the campaign because a lot of normal people looked at the Libs' insistence that you put husky dudes in the girls' changing room at the public pool, and they said, oh, the Democrats have lost the common sense. So even if I don't care about the weird sex stuff, if Democrats think that a man is really a little girl, then the Democrats probably also have impaired judgment on the economy, on immigration, on foreign policy. It showed that the Dems had just lost the plot. So the New York Times acknowledges this, admits that those of us who called it were right, at least implicitly, and says some activists say all or nothing tactics are not working. Okay, the problem for the Times and the problem for the trans movement and the problem for the Libs broadly who have embraced the trans movement is this is one of those issues that has to be all or nothing. Not every issue has to be all or nothing. Not even abortion has to be all or nothing. There are incoherent approaches to abortion that are not consistent and are usually immoral, but you can say, okay, after this date, we're not going to have abortion. Before this date, we'll have abortion. With the transgenderism, though, it is pretty much all-encompassing. With the transgender issue, because sex is so core to human nature, because sex is so prevalent in our activities all throughout the day, because people have to use the bathroom all throughout the day, because companies have to hire people, because girls have sports leagues, because sexual difference is at the heart of so much of human nature. You can't go halfway with transgenderism. The minute one dude is allowed to go into the women's bathroom, you have totally embraced the transgender ideology. And if that dude is not allowed into the women's bathroom, then you've totally rejected the transgender ideology. If you embrace it, you got to trans the kids because it's about human nature. If you don't embrace it, maybe you shouldn't trans adults. You shouldn't encourage it. It is all or nothing. And the Dems have thrown in their lot with this ideology, which means they got to take it all the way, which means they're going to lose elections. Now, when you want to make your organization more efficient, you got to check out Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Knowles. Are you feeling trapped by outdated finance software? I feel positively imprisoned by it. I've got news for you. It's time to ramp up your financial game with Ramp. Ramp is a corporate card and spend management software designed to help you save time and put money back in your pocket. Ramp gives you control like you wouldn't believe. They allow you to issue cards to every employee with limits and restrictions that you set. Expense reporting is automated. No more wasting time at the end of every month trying to piece together who spent what. Now let's talk about the accounting side. Ramp software automatically collects receipts and categorizes your expenses in real time. You will close your books 8 times faster. But Ramp is not just about saving time, it's about saving money. On average, businesses using Ramp save 5% in their first year. The best part is that Ramp is super easy to use. Get started in less than 15 minutes, whether you have 5 employees or 5,000 employees. Now, get $250 when you join Ramp. Go to ramp.com/Knowles, Knowles, ramp.com/Knowles, ramp.com/Knowles. Cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. My favorite comment yesterday is from Slap My Base 3825, who says, Denver Mayor, I will go to jail for illegal immigrants. Tom Homan, bet. I'm your Huckleberry. Let's go. You will go to jail. Okay, we agree. You will go to jail for opposing the federal immigration authorities. Now, Speaking of libs not changing, Gavin Newsom over there in California, Gomorrah by the Sea, has proposed to counter President Trump's proposal to get rid of the electric vehicle rebate. Right now, the federal government subsidizes electric vehicles. President Trump says he's going to get rid of that. This is kind of funny because one of his top advisors is Elon Musk, the most prominent producer of electric vehicles in the world. But I think Elon's come out and said, yeah, I agree with this as a matter of government policy. They don't need to do these subsidies. So Trump says we're going to cut it. Gavin Newsom in California, to countersignal Trump and probably to set himself up for 2028 to be the Democrat nominee, he says, we are going to offer electric vehicle rebates in California, except for on Teslas. We're not going to offer rebates for Teslas. The most prominent electric vehicle in the world, we're not going to offer rebates. And the only electric vehicle produced in California, produced in our own state, we're not going to offer those rebates. But if you make electric vehicles somewhere else and they're much less popular, we, the government of California, thanks to the taxpayers of California, will pay you for that. So perfect a liberal policy. This is the most perfect liberal policy maybe that I've ever seen. It is completely ineffective at achieving its stated goal, and it is a matter of petty personal gripes rather than public policy oriented toward the common good. It's perfect. What is the purpose of this policy? The purpose is to help protect the environment. Okay, you're going to protect the environment by giving away taxpayer money to buy electric vehicles, to encourage people to buy electric vehicles, but you won't help them to buy the electric vehicle that everyone wants, the one that they are most inclined to support. What is the purpose of this policy? To help the state of California, presumably. That's the purpose of all policies, or it should be. So you're going to offer the rebate to every electric vehicle company except the one that makes the cars in California. It's perfect. Completely undermines its own goal. And the reason for that is this is not really about public policy. It's not really about the common good. It's not about protecting the world from the sun monster. This is about petty personal gripes. Elon Musk now codes right. He is seen often at Mar-a-Lago. He's an advisor to President Trump. He works with the Trump administration, leading the Doge. And so Elon's going to attack him. And the environment might suffer, and the state of California might suffer, but it doesn't matter so long as Gavin Newsom's personal enemies are hurt. Now, speaking of government officials, President Trump just made a great pick for his new administration. President Trump has picked Jim O'Neill to be the number 2 at Health and Human Services. He says, quote, I'm very pleased to nominate Jim O'Neill to serve as the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services to work alongside Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He will oversee all operations and improve management, transparency, and accountability to make America healthy again. I have known Jim O'Neill for many years. He is a fantastic pick. He, for those who are not friends with Jim and don't know him personally, he co-founded the Thiel Fellowship with Peter Thiel. The Thiel Fellowship is a fellowship that gave $100,000 to university students to drop out of college and to go start businesses and to go pursue unconventional education. As President Trump points out in his press release about Jim, this has led to lots of entrepreneurship, lots of great scientific research. On the matter of scientific research, Jim has been CEO of the SENS Research Foundation, cutting edge of really impressive scientific research. The guy's just a complete rock star. So I know a lot of the Trump picks that are getting the media attention are the superstars, guys like Bobby Kennedy or Tulsi Gabbard or Pete Hegseth, guys who are on TV a lot, who have, just attracted a lot of the limelight. Just a reminder that a lot of the people that you have not heard of maybe, or a lot of the people that you in any case don't pay a lot of attention to, are extremely qualified, impressive picks. Jim is not the only one, though. He is definitely exemplary of this. Just a great, great pick by President Trump. Now, speaking of President Trump shaking up Washington, President Trump plans to fire the Department of Justice attorneys who worked on cases against him. This is the big scoop from the Washington Post. Wow, stop the presses. According to the Post, multiple sources close to the Trump transition team indicated that those who will be fired include career attorneys, who are often not fired when a new administration takes over, and that this is going to be a clearing out of the DOJ. Furthermore, Washington Post says that Trump wants to create investigative teams within the department to look for evidence of fraud in the 2020 election that may have happened in the battleground states. Yeah, wow, great work, you crack journalism team. This is why they're going to lose their seat in the White House briefing room. I don't know if they're going to lose their seat, but it's why maybe they should. Yeah, of course, Trump is going to fire the crooked DOJ attorneys who worked on cases against him, not just because of petty personal grievance, but because of public policy, because of the common good. These attorneys upended centuries of American legal precedent. Up until the past few years, we did not prosecute former presidents in this country. We were not a banana republic tin pot dictatorship. But the libs hated Trump so much, they were so afraid that the people were going to reelect Donald Trump, that they tried to throw the guy in jail. And they turned us into a degraded and debased country akin to some banana republic. Those lawyers got to go. They got to go. The Washington Post whines, well, usually these sorts of careerists just stew in the swamp no matter who gets elected. Right. And now they're going to get booted. That's the point. That's why people elected Trump. And Trump might even investigate potential voter fraud in the election 6 weeks before which the Democrats changed all the rules in some cases in unconstitutional ways, in ways that opened the election up to a far greater possibility of fraud. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's good. I don't know about you guys at the Washington Post or in the Democratic Party. I want us to have integrity in our elections. I want us to maintain the norms and traditions that have guided our country pretty well for centuries. I want justice to be done. Call me crazy. I thought that was the purpose of the Justice Department. Yeah, elections have consequences. And a lot of those careerists who did lots of naughty things under Biden, they got to go. Those careerists are a big part of the problem. Speaking of law and order, really disturbing story. This out of France. A Muslim schoolgirl accused her teacher of Islamophobia. Said that her teacher sent Muslim students out of the room and then showed images of Muhammad, which is banned in Islam. She made this up, that it wasn't true. She actually just got in trouble and she wanted to get out of it with her parents. So she made up the story about the quote unquote Islamophobic teacher. And then the teacher, a 47-year-old guy named Samuel Paty, was decapitated by a Muslim because of the false accusations. To take you through the story. Young girl, I think she was 13 or something at the time, accuses her teacher falsely of Islamophobia, and then a Muslim beheads him for it. So forget for a moment about what happens to the girl, forget about the poor teacher and his family. Can we ditch the term Islamophobia now? Islamophobia is a term that was popularized after 9/11, because after 9/11, the liberals were far more concerned with the potential backlash against supposedly peaceful Muslims than they were over the 3,000 Americans who were killed in the attack on the Twin Towers and on the Pentagon. Much more concerned with that. So that you had this term Islamophobia. Phobia is an irrational fear. So they said it's an irrational fear of Islam. How many beheadings do you need for this exact charge, the charge of Islamophobia, for showing a picture of Muhammad? How many beheadings do you have before we can get rid of this term Islamophobia? This guy was a murderer. He's a Chechen murderer, living in France, seeking asylum. So a Chechen Muslim who says, please give me asylum, France. And France gives him asylum, and then he beheads a teacher over a fake charge of Islamophobia. But even if the teacher had actually done that, I don't think you should be beheaded for that. Call me crazy. All because this guy was there for asylum. A lot of people are there seeking asylum. There's one question that the West faces right now in France, in the UK, throughout Europe, in the United States, which is, when can the citizens of our own countries seek asylum? Moreover, where can we seek asylum? We hear about asylum for all sorts of people who are creating a lot of social problems, in some cases killing our citizens through the Tren de Aragua, MS-13, Mexican gangsters, or Muslim terrorists in Europe. Where can we get our asylum? I think that's a lot of what the 2024 election was about. I think that's a lot of what Brexit was about. A lot of the right-wing elections in Europe are about. So far, we haven't gotten a really good answer on that. We need an answer to that. That's what we're seeking. We're seeking some asylum. Unfortunately, our countries now seem like insane asylums where the inmates are running the institutions. Now, our DailyWire Plus Black Friday sale is live. Get 50% off new annual memberships right now. No code needed. Just go to dailywire.com/Black Friday. Claim your new DailyWire Plus membership for 50% off. With DailyWire Plus, you get it all. Uncensored daily shows with limited ads, live breaking news you can trust, premium entertainment reshaping culture, from the decade's #1 documentary, Am I Racist?, to exclusive series and hit movies. DailyWire Plus offers it all and more. Your support makes this fight possible. Do not wait. Join the fight and save 50% today. Go to dailywire.com/Black Friday. Finally, we've arrived at my favorite time of the week when I get to hear from you in the mailbag. This mailbag is brought to you by Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get a 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. Take it away.
Hey, Michael. Since the Daily Wire has yet to develop a dating or matchmaking app for its subscribers, I'm going to borrow your show for a minute. My name is Christian. I'm a 27, soon-to-be 28-year-old conservative Christian man. I live a few miles south of Milwaukee in a small city known as South Milwaukee. I am currently looking for a conservative Christian woman to be my wife. I'm 6'4". I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. I don't have any tattoos. So I'm wondering if there are any ladies of marriageable age in the audience who might live in my area who might be interested in going on a date with me sometime. If there are any that are interested, please, I guess, send in a voice mailbag response, and we'll see if we can work something out then. Thank you, Michael and Ben and Jacob and Markella, for giving me this opportunity. Bye.
But just a correction, I did not give you this opportunity. You just took this opportunity. I did not. Is that the first time we've ever had a personal ad run in the okay, well, listen, I don't know. You're tall. That's a plus. You live near a city, but a little outside a city. That's good. I like the way you phrase it too. I live in a little city down south of Milwaukee. It's called South Milwaukee. Well, that checks out. I believe that. Okay. Well, ladies, I'm not going to feature I don't think I'm going to feature your responses to this classifieds ad, this personals ad rather, on the show. But anyway, if you're interested in a tall guy with his political priorities in order, if he's a regular member of this show, if you're in South Milwaukee, I guess go hit him up. Next question.
Hey, Michael. This is EJ Colemill. So, I had a question for you. I plan on trying to start my own political podcast in the coming year with a hopeful start date of January 6th. And I was wondering if you had any advice on what I should do as I'm trying to try this out and start it off, and particularly what I can do to be successful, build an audience, and things like that. I've already decided my focus is going to be on discussing the ideological and philosophical roots of conservatism and how that relates to what people can do on the ground so that they can be more active and engaged with affecting change with or without government, and also affect the change of government more proactively. Any advice you have would be most helpful. Thanks.
Really great question, and I'm going to give you my advice bluntly and in the most encouraging way possible, even though it's going to sound discouraging. You should not do that. You should not start a podcast. There are too many podcasts. Every white man under the age of 70 now, I think, by law, is obligated to have a podcast, and it's just too many. You should not do that. It is today, I think, not possible to just launch a podcast on your own, hang a shingle, no money, and have it be successful. 10 years ago, it was possible to do that. Because 10 years ago, the dominant forms of media were cable news and radio and the traditional media. So podcasting was new. It was the Wild West. And for a small investment, or maybe no investment, you really could go viral. Just as 10 years before that, you could go viral on YouTube. You could just put up a video and it would just go viral. It is now pretty much not possible to do that. You can't go viral as a channel or as a brand on YouTube without paying to play today. It's not possible. It wasn't even possible 10 years ago. Now, with 10 years ago, it was possible to do that with podcasts. Now the market is saturated. It's extremely efficient financially, and you got to pay to play. If you wanted to launch a podcast today and have it be successful or have a chance at success, you would need to invest, I bet, hundreds of thousands of dollars into it. If you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have said you would have to invest a minimum of tens of thousands of dollars into it. Now I don't even think that's enough. Okay, so that market is just saturated. Doesn't mean you can't have a future in politics or in political media, but it means you need to find the next thing. Whatever podcasting was in 2015, you need to figure out what that thing is today. Is that streaming? Is that Twitch? I don't know. Is that some way to use TikTok to get your message out there? Is that whatever it is, that's the thing you should be focused on, because the barrier to entry is going to be much, much lower, and your opportunity, your ROI is likely to be much, much higher. And then that thing is going to become highly financially efficient, and there are going to be lots of gatekeepers. And then the next guy in 10 years is going to have to figure out the next thing. But my broad advice is to someone today, I gave this advice to someone last night, do not start a podcast. Start the next thing. Next question.
Hi, Michael. Aiden here. First, I just wanted to quickly thank you for being one of the best influences I stumbled across while holed up during coronavirus. Now, I had an interesting point that I thought you might want to tell Matt Walsh next time you guys talk about aliens. So I'm a Christian and I hate the idea of aliens. And honestly, it annoys me every time I hear Walsh bring up aliens, though it's really hard to tell if he's being sarcastic. And there is a really solid religious point that I think refutes aliens and should lead every Christian to think so. Mother Mary is the mother of God, of course, but the idea of other physical life forms in our universe suggests their need for an incarnation of God for their race as well, because sin pervades all of creation now. A lot of Christians might think this is a perfectly conceivable option, that is, for God the Son to become incarnate for each race. But then, this would suggest a need for a mother of God on each rational life-bearing planet, and it seems to me an unreconcilable issue to suggest multiple mothers of God, and it feels sacrilegious to our Blessed Mother and her specific uniqueness. What do you think?
I think that's a great argument. You're totally right. And I've heard sometimes people say, well, people who don't like Mary sufficiently, or who think that honoring the mother of God is somehow idolatrous or blasphemous or something, which is crazy, but I understand how people sometimes go down that path. They'll say, I don't even call Mary the mother of God, I call Mary the mother of Jesus. This is a heresy, which was settled at an ancient council, because to say such a thing is to split our Lord's natures. To say either that our Lord is not really God or not really man, or that he's somehow two persons in one or something like that. He does have two natures, but they're in one person, in the person of Christ, who is fully God and fully man. So to be the mother of Jesus is to be the mother of God, which has been settled for a long time. Which means that your point is right. If there are intelligent Martians who have will and intellect, who are rational, then you need Martian Mary, and that doesn't exist. And I agree, it's sort of sacrilegious to even consider. Next question.
Hello, Michael. Big fan of the show, and I want to thank you for everything you do. Now, I'm a teenager, and I've recently been under the impression that we tend to be an ignored part of society, not entirely, but a lot of the teenagers and younger people who are trying to speak out about important things just can't get their voice out there because of their age, and also because they're not being represented by people who already have platforms. So my question is, what do you think the DailyWire or you would do to support younger voices in conservative media, in the arts? And if there isn't really anything you have to answer that, what are other resources I could use? I've been writing things, self-publishing things, putting things on Instagram for quite a while, and just can't seem to gain traction. So I wonder if you had any good tips. Thank you so much.
Well, this is related to the second question, which is how do I become a political media person? And you have gotten the point that I'm not going to launch a radio show, or I'm not going to launch a podcast even. I'm going to try to work through Instagram, or I'm trying to work through these new media channels that are maybe a little bit subtler and a little easier to get into. But to your point of young voices being ignored, Young voices are ignored because they are by definition ignorant. I don't mean this with any condescension whatsoever. I was ignorant once too, and I am still ignorant, and there are people who are older and wiser than me from whom I can learn. When I was a teenager, I was involved in politics in a somewhat public way, but I'm really glad I didn't have a show when I was 19. Because I believed a bunch of things that weren't true and really weren't persuasive. I didn't fully know what I thought yet. So if I were a teenager in politics, I think you're doing the right thing, listening to shows like this one, thank you, and reading books and really figuring out what you think. Because you want to be ready to go when you are going to launch yourself, when you really have something that you have to say. Even the point you make in the question, you say, I have so much to say, but I don't know where to say it. Well, you're on my show right now. If you have something you really have to say it in the question. Get that point out there. Most likely you don't. It's no fault of your own. It's just what happens when you're a young person. You're still forming your thoughts. It's like a young comedian. A young comedian does another guy's routine. And then over time, he develops his own routine. So that's good. I think you're exactly where you need to be. And then you can be testing out these things on Instagram. But I would say, don't be in a rush to get famous. It's nice to have notoriety if you have something that you think is worthwhile to say and you can persuade people and you can really do something. That's really good. But you can enjoy the ride as well. The ride, which is one of education, honing your skills, as you're saying, writing, trying out little things in little places. That's all good stuff. So that when opportunity does present itself, you are ready to go. I think you are doing exactly the right thing. Maybe work a campaign. Maybe that gives you a little extra experience that a lot of people don't have. Maybe read that book that the other people don't read. Maybe write that essay or write that column in a really thoughtful way. Maybe work on all of those skills. But don't be in a rush, because I don't want you to burn out when you're 22. I want you to be able to have a long burn and take the opportunities as they present themselves in a way that's really enduring. Okay, it's Fake Headline Wednesday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.